That could affect millions of families. HUD Secretary Ben Carson wants to raise rent for subsidized housing from 30% of adjusted income to 35% of gross income.
Most families could see their rent jump 21%. Those most in need will be the hardest hit. And
they could pay 3 times more what they're paying now. New at 5:30, 13 News Now reporter Adriana de Alba talks to families on edge.
This could hit local residents hard. If this proposal is approved, it would impact roughly 4 million low-income households receiving housing benefits, some of them living here in Tidewater Gardens.
Just wondering, when would the madness stop?
It's early in the afternoon and Robin Powell is worried about the cost of living.
You're in the minority. It's getting harder and harder because of the disability that I have with them raising the rent. They are drowning the poor.
After 3 major operations, Powell had to give up his construction job. For him, a monthly disability check just isn't enough to make ends meet.
Sometimes it's like that old song, sitting on the dock of the bay, wondering, if things are going to change, will you be able to get to the top and get away from the bottom?
Here in Hampton Roads, low-income families could see their rent increase by 22%, and 2 of the 4 million households who are on assistance would be affected immediately. We reached out to the Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority for a response to Dr. Ben Carson's proposal. In a statement, Director of Communications Ed Ware says the agency is, quote, very concerned about the potential increased rent burdens for low-income households of public and assisted rental housing. He adds the NRHA is, quote, analyzing the potential rent impact upon residents. Once available, we will share this information with Congressman Scott, end quote. Meanwhile, Powell says the home he and his wife were trying to save up to buy feels more and more out of reach.
It's affecting us as far as living and as far as advancing to move ourselves higher than where we are.
And NRHA leaders also say while they support comprehensive rent reform, they question if this proposal is the right way to achieve it. In Norfolk, Adriana de Alba, 13 News Now.